Hello, Miss Angel. I'd like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk to you today about my desire to open the first running store in St. Johns County, Florida. What I'd like to do first is give you a brief overview of running generally in America, talk a little bit about the location for my first running store, and then talk about the factors I think are going to impact my new business and the strategies I've developed to take advantage of the opportunities and minimize the threats to that business. I've prepared a few slides that will help me illustrate the key points of my presentation today. Running has been growing for decades in America. And a couple of good indicators of that, I think, are the growth in the number of finishers of running races and the growth in the sale of running shoes. And I picked running shoes specifically because running shoes are typically the largest single retail item that any running store is going to sell. The typical runner will buy 3 pair of shoes a year at a cost of $90 or more. The slide that you see on the screen right now in front of you illustrates my point. In 2000, something around 8 million people finished running races in America. By 2012, that number had risen to over 15 million. In terms of running shoes, in 1998, you see that we had less than 30 million running shoes sold in America. By 2012, that number had increased to almost 45 million. Running shoe sales in 2012 were over $3 billion. The growth nationally of running is reflected in the growth of running in the Northeast Florida area. The next slide that you see on the screen in front of you talks about that. What I've done here is shown you the growth of the largest 3 races in this area. The blue bar represents the growth in the largest race in this area, the Jacksonville 15K Gate River Run. In 2009, about 10,000 runners finished that race. By 2012, over 16,000 runners had finished that race. So running is growing nationally, it's growing locally, and running has grown, and the sale of running merchandise has grown despite the recession in America over the last several years and despite any other economic difficulties that may have faced this country. There's no reason to believe that that growth is going to stop anytime soon. Let me talk now about the location that I like to put my store in. Jacksonville, Florida is a city of about 830,000 people in the northeast corner of Florida. Jacksonville, the city, and the county that it sits in, Duval County, merged in the late 1960s, so they're the same entity. On the southern border of Duval County, or Jacksonville, is St. Johns County, a county of about 200,000 people. The growth rate for St. Johns County over the next decade is projected to be about 16% annually. In the northwest corner of St. Johns County, right next to Jacksonville, is a cluster of 3 towns that have about 40,000 people in them. One of those towns, Fruit Cove, was named in a 2010 Business Week article as the fastest growing town in Florida. That's the place that I'm going to put my running store, the St. John's Running Company. Every year, Running USA does an annual survey of runners and the running industry. And that survey provides a lot of good information and demographics about the typical runner. I think that the demographics for a typical runner are reflected in the demographics for St. Johns County, where I want to put my new store. If you look at the presentation in front of you right now on the screen, you'll see what I'm talking about. The average age, the percentage married, the college education level, and the household income for typical runners are represented in the blue bars on the graph that you see on the screen. Next to it are orange bars that represent those demographics for St. Johns County. And for comparison's sake, I've also shown you those demographics for Duval County and the national averages. And what you see in that slide is that St. Johns County is a fertile area to start a new running store in that area. The next thing I'd like to talk about are the opportunities and threats that are facing my new business and provide you an assessment of how well I think the St. John's Running Company is going to deal with those factors. If you look at the screen right now, you'll see a matrix that shows my external factors evaluation for my company. And the key opportunities I think that my company has are this. Number one, there's no running store within 7 to 8 miles of my new running store. The St. John's Running Company, my new business, will be the very first running store in St. Johns County. The other two strong opportunities are, number one, again, the demographics for the area that I'm putting my store in. It's a great area for runners. And two, the continued growth of running nationally and locally in this area. The two big threats, I think, to my business are, number one, the existing running stores, First Place Sports and the Jacksonville Running Company, and the population density where my store is going to go. 40,000 people is a lot of people, but I think you can ask the question whether or not it's enough to support a new running store. And I'll address that later in my strategies. Having looked at the external factors that I think affect my business, the next thing that I like to talk about is the strengths and weaknesses of my business. The slide that you now see on the screen talks about that. If you look at that slide, you'll see that the two biggest strengths, I think, of my business are, number one, its location as the first running store in St. Johns County. But two, even more importantly, my 40 years of experience as a runner. I started running as a teenager, ran through my 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, ran through a 29-year career in the Navy, have run races from marathons on down, and I will tell you that running is as big a part of my life now at age 61 as it's ever been. That's one of the great strengths I think I bring to the business. The weaknesses of my business initially are, number one, the lack of an established customer base, and two, the lack of running event sponsorship. And running event sponsorship is important because multiple studies have shown that runners buy from businesses that sponsor their races. So it's going to be very important, I think, for the St. John's Running Company to sponsor local races. I'd like to talk now about how I think my company is going to stack up competitively, initially at least, to the other two running businesses in this area. The next slide that you see on the screen before you talks about that competitive basis. As you look at the slide, you'll see that the two weaknesses, I think, coming out of the box for my business are going to be advertising and market share. I don't have any market share right now and haven't done a lot of advertising. The strengths, I think, competitively for the St. John's Running Company are going to be the customer shopping experience that I'm going to offer people. And again, it's location. And the customer shopping experience is going to be one that is going to give the St. John's Running Company a great advantage over any of the local big box stores like Dick's Sporting Goods, etc., as well as an advantage over the local running stores. And it's going to do that because we're going to let people know when they come into our store that we care about their running and what happens with their running. The next thing I'd like to talk about are the strategies that I'd like to employ in making my business successful. The slide that's on the screen in front of you right now is a breakdown of those strategies. And I understand that's a pretty busy slide right now, so let me say that I think that the key strategies that I'm going to use are this. First of all, as I've said before, I'm going to establish the very first running store in St. Johns County, a great area for running. Two, I'm going to join the local running clubs. I'm going to attend their meetings to promote the St. John's Running Company. And the St. John's Running Company is going to get into the business of sponsoring local races. I'm going to create a great indoor experience for my customers by focusing on their goals, focusing on why they run. I'm going to make sure that they get a good experience. I'm going to create and I'm going to utilize a website, a St. John's Running Company website that's going to promote store services and goods not only in the immediate area here in St. Johns County, but also in Jacksonville generally and in the greater area of Northeast Florida. And I'll do that to bring in people from outside to make sure that I have that customer base for my store to do well. my strategy is going to be based upon differentiation and focus. I'm going to focus on the running community in St. Johns County. And I'm going to differentiate this store from the other stores by the customer service that it provides. Business metrics aside, and they're certainly important, when I looked to establish the St. John's Running Company, what I looked at, Miss Angel, was this. Over 40 years, I've been going into running stores. Well, what have I missed in that experience? What have I not gotten from those running stores? And the things that I haven't gotten really is the feeling as I came in there to buy those shoes or buy that new running shirt of belonging to a running community. The feeling that the people I was buying from cared about how well those shoes worked for me. I'm going to make sure from day one that the St. John's Running Company provides that experience to its customers. They're going to know when they walk in my store that they're part of a greater running community. And we're going to follow up via our website and via all other social media to make sure that they understand that we care about the services and the goods they receive from our company. The last thing I'd like to do today is talk about the vision I have for my company. The slide that is on the screen right now in front of you shows that vision. And you'll see that I'd like the St. John's Running Company to become a center for running in St. John's County in Northeast Florida. A place where new and experienced runners can receive the support they need to begin and continue a lifetime of enjoyable, rewarding running. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to provide the services and products people need to run. We're going to listen to what they tell us about what they need, and we're going to fill their running needs and wants with practical, knowledgeable advice. We're going to actively utilize the World Wide Web and all available resources to find the best prices for our customers. We're going to maintain and develop an active relationship with regional running clubs and the local running community. And we're going to encourage running in St. Johns County and Northeast Florida at all levels. Our business success will always be measured by the success of our customers in meeting their running goals and by the growth of running in this area. Miss Angel, I'd like to thank you again for the opportunity today to talk to you about my desire to start the St. John's Running Company. The slide that you're going to see now is my contact information. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you again.